Hey, I'm Ryan. So, in the last videos that I did, we went over the risk stratifications, and there were 7 of those, and then 1 negative stratification that I went over. And this is basically how you apply them. These are the risk classifications. So, you can have up to 7 points. Basically, these are the different categories. There's low risk, moderate risk, and high risk as far as what kind of a client you'll be dealing with and what you can do with them as far as exercise testing and exercise. So, if they got 0 or 1 points, then they are considered low risk. If they got any more, like 2 or more points, then they're moderate risk. They could have all the way up to 7 points, they're still moderate risk. The only thing that makes them high risk is if they're symptomatic. And they could have like 1 point or no points or whatever, but I mean, they would have a point if they're symptomatic. But that means that they have cardiovascular disease or they have diabetes or something like that. That is what would put them in the high risk category. And there's this little chart down here. It's pretty simple once you fill it all in, and you'll see what you can and cannot do with them. So over here, this first column or row is, do they need a medical exam before they do exercise? If they are low risk, they do not need a medical exam. No. For moderate or for vigorous exercise. Do they need an exercise test before exercise? No. They don't need that for moderate or vigorous exercise. Do they need medical supervision of an exercise test? For a submax, they do not, and for a max test, they also do not. Pretty much, if you're low risk, you don't need medical supervision or an exercise test before exercise. You can just go and put them to work. So, if they are moderate risk, so they got 2 or higher, then medical exam before exercise. If it's moderate exercise, they don't need a medical exam before exercise. But if it's vigorous, then they do need a medical exam before they exercise. That's the only yes that's going to be on here. So, do they need to have an exercise test done before they start exercising? No, doesn't matter if it's moderate or vigorous. Do they need to have a submax or a medical supervision of an exercise test? Nope, doesn't matter if it's a submax test or a maximal test. The only thing that you need a medical exam for is vigorous exercise. You just need a medical exam before they can start that. And that's for moderate risk people. Everything in low risk is no. The only thing in moderate risk is medical exam before exercise, vigorous exercise, yes. High risk is like the opposite of low risk. Everything's a yes. So, going over this real quick. Do they need a medical exam before they exercise? Yes. Both for moderate and vigorous, of course. And do they need exercise? Do they need to do an exercise test before they exercise? Yes, they do, for moderate and vigorous. And then, do they need medical supervision of an exercise test? They do, for submax and for max. So, to sum it up real quick, just so you can memorize it if you're taking the test or anything, it might look complicated at first, but of course, once you get it down, it's simple. Everything in low risk is no. Everything in high risk is yes. Moderate risk, the only thing that is yes is medical exam before exercise. For vigorous exercise, yes. Everything else is no, plain and simple.